Welcome back. And the next speaker in our list is my Baltic brother, Viktoras Pranckietis from Lithuania. The floor is yours, Viktoras.
Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, let's start with another beautiful European language, Lithuanian. Dėkoju už galimybę galvoti drauge.
Thank you for the opportunity to engage in reflections together with all EU member states and friends. When we talk about European values, we refer to those which are here to serve the people of our countries. We have been talking a lot about European security, since our countries confront common challenges such as migration flows, demographic changes, fake news, terrorism, hybrid threats, or even military aggression in the eastern neighborhood countries of Ukraine, Georgia, or protracted conflicts in Moldova. But apart from those, we face a real hybrid threat coming from an unsafe nuclear power plant, which is under construction in Astravets, Belarus, some 20 kilometers away from the external border of the EU. The Chernobyl disaster, which happened 32 years ago, is a reminder to all of us that the nuclear contamination which the disaster brought about sees no borders. Lithuania had the same RBMK-type reactors, but our country committed to shut them down as part of the accession agreement. In its turn, the EU pledged to allocate adequate funding for the decommissioning. It is therefore goes without saying that all forms of security of the EU must be based on appropriate funding from the MFF. I call for solidarity because solidarity with each other on such matters as collective defense, military mobility, and energy security is what truly counts. As far as problems are concerned, we have to address them in the countries of origin, be it Africa, Russia, the Middle East, or the Eastern Partnership countries. Anyway, whatever we undertake to do within the EU, we must always act for the benefit of our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Viktoras. Honorable Nikolaos Voutsis from Greece. Welcome.
Thank you very much, dear Speaker. Europe needs to remain a global power devoted to peace and stability. Its international action must be driven by the respect of the international law, the protection of the rule of law and human rights, as well as the strengthening of growth. Within such framework, Greece supports the efforts to strengthen the autonomy of the European Union in the field of security and defense, and its role as a reliable partner and as a source of security and stability. Challenges must be met in full respect of the values of the European Union, not by transforming Europe into a fortress or into a community of police states. Greece believes that the activation of the permanent structural cooperation, PESCO, contributes an important step to this direction. Following the adoption of common rules of the governance of the projects within PESCO by next June, we aim at adopting the decision regarding the participation of third parties in PESCO on the basis of specific criteria and taking into account the interests in the field of defense and security in the member states of the European Union. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, Europe must be concerned about the degradation of the United Nations and the contrast blows to peace in the Middle East. The last resolution taken in the United Nations for Jerusalem, and though the European Union had a common stance, must make us all very concerned about the future. In view of the common declaration of the European Union and NATO during the summit of NATO in July 2018, we will need to reiterate the agreed principles on which the cooperation of the two bodies is based, avoiding what has not been agreed, especially in issues of in the issue of the necessary institutional autonomy and the distinctive role of the two bodies. Allow me to stress that it is wrong to link refugee flows to terrorism. Terrorism stems from religious fundamentalism fundamentalism that breeds terrorist organizations such as ISIS and Al-Qaeda. We all are very experienced nowadays owing to what has happened in the past, so we shouldn't be talking in certain ways about such things. Lastly, allow me to stress the need to solve the Cyprus issue, abiding by the resolutions of the United Nations and the international law, aiming at reuniting the island of Cyprus, which has been for years a full member of the European Union, and guarantees by third countries are not needed anymore, should not be the case anymore. Thank you very much for your attention.
Next speaker in our list is Boguslav Marian Liberatsky from European Parliament. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President Nestor. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about European security and defense. I see it as a triangle or trinity. It means protecting people, defending union, and playing global role. This triangle or trinity should pave the way for our exact operational abilities. Defense. There has been a dramatic change in Europe's security environment in recent years. We need to commit ourselves to work on building up and maintaining our capabilities. These capabilities must be, like our chair Nestor said yesterday, complementary and mutually reinforcing with NATO. We are not going to compete against NATO. We are going to work together with NATO. And NATO is for us important in this global sense. Our military possibilities and capabilities should defend the Union and protecting people, or maybe just vice versa, protecting people and then defending Europe. The European Parliament has strongly supported the recent development in the European defense industry. President Tajani said yesterday, and I want to stress the point, we can do much more together to guarantee the innovations and competitiveness of European defense industry. We can save resources, money, and use it more wisely. And we can gain much more influence in the global arenas to defend our values and our interests. European Defence Fund must be strong and operational. The European Defence Industry Development Programme should guarantee us interoperable industry and should be completed with full participation of all stakeholders involved. Cybersecurity. Myself, as European Parliament Vice President responsible for security, I want to stress the role of cybersecurity and cyber defense in the context of European security and defense. Let me stress, European institutions, especially European Parliament, are quite well advanced in the area. Nothing happened so far, but it requires constant alertness and constant upgrading of our resources. And financing, because we may talk much, without financing we can achieve not so much. Many colleagues mentioned yesterday the role of multi-annual financial framework when we define our priorities for the future of Europe. I want to underline importance of this MFF also. Our defense capabilities, development of defense industry, and maintaining our capacity to cyber defense will not come for free. We have to devote resources. We have to get convinced people that it is for their protection, for defending of our union and our values, that this is not exactly expenditure, this is an investment, and we should convince them. So we need to address these challenges in the next MFF, and I do believe we find good mutual understanding on importance. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. And the next speaker in our list is our colleague from former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, Talat Zaferi. The floor is yours.
Distinguished Chairman, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, in the past years, the security situation in Europe and beyond is a serious challenge for the European Union as well as for each state, including the aspirant states. Unfortunately, the war conflicts, which are relatively close to Europe, especially to us living in the region of Western Balkan, are a daily challenge, both for the security bodies as well as the state institutions in general. Terrorism, organized crime, the refugee crisis are only a few of the daily challenges we are faced with as states. All these developments and situations influence the public opinion whose peace and stability are being jeopardized. And our primary interest as their direct representatives is to ensure the peace and stability, since only regions without conflicts can be prosperous and attractive. Distinguished friends, peace and stability undoubtedly mean cooperation between the states in the security areas, but also the collective defense associations such as NATO are of utmost importance. The Republic of Macedonia determined its full-fledged membership in NATO as its strategic goal since the independence, and this is highly supported by the citizens. Even though formally in the Euro we are not members of NATO yet, I would remind you that the members of our security forces contribute in the peacekeeping missions in the framework of our own possibilities and sometimes beyond our possibilities. We actively participate in the security of our continent. I would provide one of the freshest examples of the aforementioned. At the border with our neighbor Greece, the Slovenian, Slovakian, and Czech police forces together with the Macedonian police forces control this part of the Balkan route. Ladies and gentlemen, the security challenges have a negative influence on the persistence of the European principles and values. Prejudice, stereotypes, intolerance, hate speech are more and more evident. This is why I think that as we have been organized and worked on the security challenges, we should pay equal attention to these negative developments, which at the moment are ephemeral and not widely accepted by the public. Nevertheless, our obligation is to build healthy societies where the future generations will not be brought up by prejudice, intolerance, or stereotypes towards the other, the different one. On the contrary, generations that are to be brought up with embedded European values and standards which the founding fathers of United Europe spoke of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear colleague. Our honorable colleague from Turkey, Ayşenur Bahçekapılı, asked one more time floor for the short intervention, please.
Teşekkür ederim Sayın Başkan.
Thank you very much, distinguished speaker. I would like to make a comment with regards to the terminology used during the interventions. Terrorist organizations should not have any religion or nationality. So labeling terrorism with Islam will bring along certain risks and will result in marginalization. This will not isolate terrorists, but it will serve for the benefit of terrorists. Turkey is a predominantly Muslim country, and Turkey is at the forefront fighting against terrorist organizations like Daesh. And Turkey does not reconciliate Daesh terrorist organization with Islamic values. Islam is human-oriented. Peace, tolerance, and solidarity is at the core of Islam. Daesh, Al-Qaeda can never represent Islam. Daesh and Al-Qaeda are terrorist organizations, full stop. So, those Christians, when they act as perpetrators, when they act as responsibles for a terrorist act, we would not deem it as Christian terrorism, and we should definitely show the same sensitivity towards Islam. Thank you very much for the opportunity of this.
Thank you. Lord McFaul, United Kingdom, the floor is yours.
Mr. President, a huge thanks to you and your whole team of colleagues who have looked after us so wonderfully since we arrived. I am struck by the generous spirit that has pervaded the conference, and I am privileged to be flying the flag for the House of Lords on behalf of the Lord Speaker, Lord Fowler, and I will report back to him on the very positive engagement that we have had. But may I remind colleagues that we are still here, and the EU presently has 28 member states, and we will be playing our full part in that as long as we are here. Mr. President, as politicians, we need to live in hope. And my hope for the future is that the spirit of cooperation and the deep friendship we have forged will continue long into the future. And may I say, it is axiomatic that a successful Brexit can only be built on an enduring foundation, and the need for a positive and cooperative relationship with Europe is very, very important to our future welfare in a globalised world which is becoming increasingly interdependent. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord, and thank you, colleagues, for your comments. I pass now the floor back to our keynote speakers for remarks and answers. Inara Murnetsa, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Iki. Dear colleagues, thank you all who participated in this discussion. Well, and from today's discussion, it is crystal clear that we are much more on the same page and we are much more united than a few years ago. And it is a major step forward. Thank you for this. The second, as many speakers stressed, defense is not just about guns. It's a complex issue, and many of them mentioned cyber threats, hybrid threats, what's going on social media. Well, and it means we should seek for new solutions, how to regulate mass media environment. And well, good luck to all of us in this domain. The third, we all strongly support PESCO and expect PESCO to deliver concrete results. Well, and NATO and EU cooperation is vital. It is essential. What we see, it's that let's say some country would like to weaken transatlantic bond. And transatlantic bond is essential to ensure security in Europe. Well, but the main, dear colleagues, in the core of all discussions on defense lies our commitment to protect democracy, as our colleagues from United Kingdom mentioned. Democracy shouldn't be flabby. It must be able to protect itself. We all want to live in stable, democratic countries, to preserve our lifestyle, to preserve our values. And our commitment is to secure a good future for our children, for the next generations here in Europe. Then good luck to all of us seeking new solutions, working on law amendments when necessary, seeking new solutions not only in just some separate countries, but on the EU level as well. Well, and good luck to all of us to strengthen our common Europe. Thank you.
Thank you, Inara. Dr. Schöbel, the floor is yours, please.
Dankeschön. Unsere lettische Kollegin hat eben gesagt,
Our Latvian colleague just pointed out that we have made a huge step forward compared to a couple of years ago. And since I am new as Speaker, I am delighted to see that we have made this progress. However, I am not quite convinced whether the problems may not be actually moving faster than the progress that we have made. And that's why I remain impatient. And at the end of this debate, I would not want us to be too complacent.
Mir ist aufgefallen, dass in dieser Diskussion das Wort Syrien nicht
It
vorgekommen
struck
ist.
me that no one mentioned Syria during this discussion. We talked about lots of problems, but
für europäische Verteidigungspolitik ist
for a European defense policy,
worüber wir im Zusammenhang mit Syrien, worüber wir nachdenken müssen.
we also have to consider Syria, and lots of things have happened there in the past few weeks.
Wir werden, wenn Europa ernst genommen werden
If
will,
Europe wants to be taken seriously
von der Welt uns herum, aber eben auch von
by
unseren
the
Bürgern, denn wir
world
haben eine
around us and
steigende
also by our
Skepsis
citizens,
gegenüber europäischer
because
Integration,
there is increasing skepticism amongst our citizens concerning European integration. And if we want to overcome this, we will have to prove that we are able to contribute towards solving major problems.
wenig über die Probleme
We have
mit der
also
Ukraine gesprochen.
heard little today about the problems with
Britischen Kollegen
Ukraine.
haben davon gesprochen. Sie haben uns
Our
noch einmal
British
schmerzlich
colleagues
unterstrichen.
mentioned this, and they reminded us painfully how wrong the Brexit decision was. But, well, we have to respect that. But at least we're allowed to say, to point out that it's a wrong decision. That's my impression, and that's my feeling anyway, and not only for security reasons.
Natürlich ist Sicherheitspolitik eine Sache,
Of course, security policy is a matter which is mostly for the governments to deal with, and we as parliaments can be no more than links towards the citizens, towards our people. But we also have to create the legal framework, the legal basis,
eine Rolle spielt.
and this brings us to the importance of legislation. President Larcher from the French Senate said that we could become far more efficient in the field of armament. But of course, this will require the necessary legal framework in order to make further steps forward. And that will be my appeal to you at the conclusion of this debate today. The national parliaments and the European Parliament will have to discuss in far greater depth who should be responsible for what. And this brings me back to yesterday's debate. Of course, the willingness will differ from country to country, and we have to respect this, because Europe can only function if we understand that each country has its own problems, has its own experience, and that there are natural differences, and we have to respect this. And for this reason, we will also have to find a way and work to find a way of improving cooperation amongst the member states, individual member states. And this may be something like PESCO, enhanced cooperation, which must not include all member states, but we have to increase cooperation between the member states and the European institutions. This is what we will have to continue to work on. This is a task for all of us. I would like to thank the Presidency for making it possible to have this in-depth and constructive debate here today, and I would like to thank you for the great hospitality that we have enjoyed. Thank you very much.
Danke schön. And Mr. Sobotka, the floor is yours.
Die Diskussion hat gezeigt, dass sehr weit.
The debate has shown that security is a very comprehensive term and that many countries have different views concerning what security is about. But there is a core in the security architecture of Europe, and what we need is a strong Europe at the core. And this is about fighting terror, it's about cyber security, and it's about cooperation in the military field. What has also been mentioned time and again, and this also became clear just now in President Schäuble's summary, and that's the fact that there are different approaches. It's about what individual countries can contribute towards the European whole. For us, as a medium-sized country, close to the Balkan region, it is a key task and a key responsibility to ensure stability in the Balkan region. And stability on the Balkans is of key importance for all of Europe. That is my conviction, at least. And if you take a closer look at the history of the 20th or maybe also the 19th century, then you will see, apart from the major conflicts between Germany and France, you will always find that the Balkans, a huge area, has always been marked by conflicting interests, which resulted in major conflict. And in order not to endanger this process today, this accession process to the European Union, we will need European initiatives. And I think it is quite understandable for some countries to try to push the brakes when it comes to European enlargement, but there is no alternative. And we will have to think harder about how the steps forward made by these countries are recognized at a European level. We have to give a future perspective to the people living in these countries. We should not allow small political forces, political minorities in these countries to endanger the European integration process. I think that is one of our major challenges right now. And I believe the Balkans strategy, which was formulated by President Juncker in winter and which was intensified, or which will be intensified by the summit at the summit in Sofia on May the 17th. This is something to which Austria can definitely contribute, and I think just like we can contribute to this, each and every country in the European Union can think about what contribution they could make in their specific region towards greater European safety and security, so that we can all together meet the challenges that we face. I'm very confident looking at other regions and saying that these developments will need time. Of course, some things happen faster than other things, and that is why now we should seize the opportunity. And if we're not successful the first time, then, well, we have to try again. I think this pragmatic and positive image, this message that we are sending here from Tallinn, could serve as an example for Europe. Despite all differences and despite all emotions that we may have, we also need this Nordic coolness in order to be able to make progress. So I would like to thank you for this emotional feeling that you have given to Europe during this important conference.
Danke schön. Thank you all for your active participation. The topic which we just discussed today is very important for all of us. And the biggest thanks to our keynote speakers. They are professional, fantastic, good ones. Applause to them. And dear colleagues, the keynote speakers, now you can go back to your seat, and I must rule this room one more time. Thank you one more time.